Welcome back to part 2 of Vaevictis Asmadi the Dire on the Money Draft of EDH, Commander Time! It's Commander Time!
Do you actually want to talk about Patron of the Vein? I've mentioned this on Twitter, I think, as an underplayed card, in my opinion. I don't think that this card sees enough respect as compared to Noxious Gearhulk.
Yeah, are they both 4 black?
They're both 4 black. They both have a form of evasion. Actually, you do Patron, and I'll pull up Noxious Gearhulk, and we'll compare them.
Patron of the Vein is a creature vampire shaman, but it's flying, it's 4/4, and when it enters the battlefield, you destroy target creature an opponent controls, and whenever a creature an opponent controls dies it doesn't have to be this guy that destroyed it, exile that creature and put a +1/1 counter on each vampire you control. And because it does the Kalidas thing where it exiles the creature that dies, the Anafenza the Foremost, I like her too. I like that effect. But, even if this is the only vampire you have, it's still pretty good.
Yeah, it's getting all those counters anyway. And then Noxious Gearhulk is 4 black for a 5/4 artifact creature construct. It has Menace, and when it enters the battlefield, you may destroy another target creature. If a creature is destroyed this way, you gain life equal to its toughness. Now, this card was printed in Standard, so there's probably a lot more copies of it. Patron of the Vein was only in Commander 2017?
Edgar Markov.
Yeah, Edgar Markov, that deck. So they're both evasive. The Patron has Flying, the Noxious Gearhulk has Menace. Patrick, which form of evasion is better, would you say, in EDH?
Menace, actually.
Really? Interesting. I would go Flying.
I mean, flying in general is better, but in EDH, my sense is that there's just so much just incidental flying.
Sure. The reason I like Flying also on the Patron is because it can block flyers, and the Noxious Gearhulk cannot.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's fair.
Yeah, Menace is completely offensive.
Yeah. Noxious Gearhulk comes down as a 5/4. Patron of the Vein comes down as a 4/4, kills something, and becomes a 5/5. Would we rather have a 5/4 or a 5/5 in EDH? I'm going to go with a 5/5.
You're right.
And Patron has a continuous creature grave hate effect, and Noxious Gearhulk will gain you some life. Do we really care about life in EDH, or would we rather keep our opponents from reanimating a large graveyard? Nate, what do you think?
They have graveyards?
No,
I don't think they have graveyards.
Not when they're playing against you, they don't.
Yeah, I mean, brings up a good point.
Yeah. So, for me, in all those categories, Patron takes it over the Gearhulk. Additionally, the Noxious Gearhulk is easier to remove in that it is an artifact creature, and the Patron is just a creature. So, all points go to Patron, in my opinion.
Yay, Patron.
Ooh. All right.
You can do it. You're the best.
So those were the overlapping themes. Did you want to talk about where yours diverge from mine, or do you want me to talk about some of my maybe sort of weirder themes?
We'll switch back and forth. How about your main... I'll call it your main theme.
Yeah, my main sub-theme. It's a heavy package in the deck, we'll call it. So I went with a weird land hate theme. Once Vaevictis is out, I really don't care about my lands, and it's only better for me if my opponents don't have them, because I'm just going to keep on manipulating the top card of my library to give me the best thing that I can that I have access to, either from my graveyard or my deck or whatever I'm able to do. So I've got a couple cards here. I'll list them off. I've got Desolation. This is a 1 black enchantment. At the end of each turn, each player who tapped a land for mana during that turn sacrifices a land. There's some more text that's not super important. Price of Glory. 2 and a red for an enchantment. Whenever a player taps a land for mana during another player's turn, destroy that land. Stoneshaker Shaman, 2 and a red for a 1/1 human shaman. At the end of each player's turn, that player sacrifices an untapped land, so it hates out those blue mages. I've got Keldon Firebombers, 3 red for a 3/3 creature soldier. When it comes into play, each player sacrifices all lands he or she controls except for 3. That's probably my favorite. What else have I?
So did this start out as a Lord Windgrace deck?
It did, yes. Yes, it did.
Okay.
And I just felt like Windgrace was too slow and grindy, and Vaevictis was appropriately explosive and could support these themes. My last card in this package is Destructive Flow, black, red, green.
Oh, yeah.
At the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player sacks a non-basic land. It's pretty good. I did also have Burning Sands in the deck, but I cut that, I'm not sure, probably for something else horrible and nasty. Burning Sands says that whenever a creature dies, its controller sacrifices a land. I would like to put it back in at some point. It's a 3 red for an enchantment that does that.
I think I saw an earlier version of your deck with Trenchworm. Does that sound right?
Yes. So, Trenchworm is it's a 3/3 worm for a 3 and a black, and you can pay 2 and a red and tap it to destroy target. I'm not sure if there's a restriction about non-basic or whatever, but you can destroy a land of some kind. And the reason I cut that, and I had a few other things like that actually, the reason I cut those effects is because if I don't have haste on the field, they aren't going to be able to destroy something right away.
Right.
They won't survive board wipes. And also, they eat up my mana, which was surprisingly relevant. I actually don't want to spend even the 3 mana activating the Trenchworm. I have Dust Bowl in the deck, and I rarely use Dust Bowl for the same reason. 3 or 4 mana is quite a bit to destroy a land when I'm doing other things.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good transition to one of my packages.
Okay.
That I have in here is haste support. And it's something I learned from Gileva, is that whenever you have a commander that does something awesome when it attacks, you need to have haste support in the deck. So, there's the standard Lightning Greaves and Swiftfoot Boots. For these types of commanders, I would recommend, switching over some of the lands like Hall of the Bandit Lord, which might be pricey now. There was another one, Flamekin Village and Hanware Battlements. Both of those, if you're in red and you need haste, both of those lands can give you haste. And I like Chariot of Victory and Haunted Cloak as extra artifacts.
Yeah.
Both of them cost 3. They equip for 1, and they give you either First Strike and Vigilance and Trample and Haste.
Haunted Cloak is great. I love that card. I like that one particularly because it gives vigilance, which is very important on a commander, a large commander. You want to be able to block with it too.
Yeah, it's okay.
I think we're also both running Anger, or is that just me? Oh, that's just me.
Yeah, just you.
Yeah. Anger, I found, if it doesn't get eaten up by Grave Hate, is pretty excellent, because not only does Vaevictis have haste, all your creatures have haste. It's pretty good.
Right. And on that category, there's... you might consider Kolagon. One of the Kolagons will give them all haste. I saw you have Garna the Bloodflame. I think that gives everything haste.
Yeah. Actually, Garna has been pretty savage, because if you happen to flip Garna off the top while you're sacrificing something else, you get whatever creature you sacrificed back to hand and you can recast it.
Oh.
So if it's a Wood Elves or something like that, you were just, okay, I got my land, I'll sack it and flip it. Oh, hey, I got a Garna. Now all my creatures have haste. I have a Wood Elves again, and I can cast it to get another forest.
All right.
I also have Xenagod.
Double them up.
Double them up and
double up the damage.
And gives them haste, yep.
Double.
Yeah.
Let's see. Is that your only doubler?
For power, yes, I believe so. I think I'm also running Kessig Wolfram.
Okay. I was thinking, is it Sower of Discord or is it the new Archfiend? Maybe both of them.
Wound Reflection guy, you think?
Archfiend of Despair is the name of the card, I think. And yes, that's the one that has the Wound Reflection effect.
Right. So wound, reflection, Archfiend of Despair, and Sower of Discord. It doesn't double a single player's damage, but if one player is damaged, then it can damage another one too.
Oh, that's the Sower of Discord specifically. Yep.
That's the one where you pick two players.
Yes.
Or yeah, it copies the damage from one player onto other players. Speaking of which, another one of my themes that I think I saw in your Saskia build. I was snooping around your Saskia build.
Sure.
Stealing secret tech.
Snoop.
Yeah. So in Dean's Saskia build, I think there's like a Pestilence and Pyrohemia theme.
Yeah, that's the main win con. I'm running a bunch of dinos with Enrage, so...
Yeah, so Silverclad Ferocidons. I have that in my deck along with Pestilence Demon, and I added Pestilence and Pyrohemia. And so I really want to win with that win condition. And then once I do that, I can take Silverclad Ferocidons. But
hey, you might just decide you like it. It's an 8/5 for 7. That's great.
Yeah. And every time it takes damage, each opponent sacrifices a permanent. So if you have some mana laying around for the Pestilence Pyrohemia effects, it can just make everybody sacrifice everything. It's like Annihilator for free.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I love that. I love that combo.
Oh, and also I got Deathbringer Thoktar, and I'm not sure about Magmatic Force, but I'm going to try it out.
Don't like...
Magmatic Force, at the beginning of each upkeep, it does 3 damage to any target.
Yeah, I don't care for Magmatic Force. I do like the Deathbringer Thoktar, though it's usually too expensive, but I think in this deck it's just fine.
Yeah, in this deck we don't care what things cost.
Yeah. Yeah. Things are free.
Yeah.
Most of the time.
Another thing about commanders that say target on them. If the commander does something cool, but you have to target something, you need hexproof removal. Well, you don't need it, but it's pretty cool if you have it. And if you don't mind the loss of color, then Arcane Lighthouse and the new Detection Tower are both lands that you can pay 1 colorless mana into it and tap it, and then all the hexproof goes away for your opponents.
Yeah, Arcane Lighthouse, I think, targets a specific opponent, and it also gets rid of Shroud, whereas the Detection Tower hits all of your opponents, but only for hexproof.
No, Arcane Lighthouse says, until end of turn creatures your opponents control.
Oh, I see. Never mind then. Arcane Lighthouse is a strictly better Detection Tower. But maybe run both.
Yeah, I'm doing both.
Yeah.
And Dean, you're not running either.
Correct. Yeah, I am not. Initially, I was shying away from non-basics because of Destructive Flow.
Yeah.
But I don't know. The other thing is also the loss of color is actually a pretty hard hit. Since most of my ramp is, I have to cast a creature or something to get it off, and if I turn 1, Arcane Lighthouse is not going to get me Derogatory Speaker. I don't know. Something to think about.
I think the rest of my stuff is pretty standard stuff that you would see in most Vaevictis decks. I am running Possibility Storm because I think that would be fun. Because I'm not casting things from my hand that much. I'm just letting the dragon do it.
Yeah, did you want to talk about the top of the deck manipulation, Nate?
Oh, sure. So there's an enchantment called Cream of the Crop, and it's cheaper than I thought. It is 1 and a green enchantment. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may look at the top X cards, where X is that creature's power. And if you do, put one of those cards on top of your library and the rest on the bottom. So you get to sift through and scry X, where X is that power of the creature, which is pretty cool when you want to figure out what the next thing Vaevictis is going to summon. And a similar thing is Path of Discovery. It costs more. This is 3 and a green enchantment. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, it explores. So you reveal the top card of your library. If it's a land, it goes to your hand. If it's not a land, that creature gets a +1/1 counter. And you get the choice of whether the card stays there or goes to your graveyard. That was pretty handy.
Yeah. Yeah, since Vaevictis flips the top card of your deck, being able to swap that card around is really, really important. Neither Nate nor I are running top or scroll rack, but if you happen to have those would be pretty sweet. You could...
Yeah, I was gonna say, you guys, that's a pretty obvious include.
Yeah, but that's like, at least $50 worth of cards in 2 cards.
So if you don't like spending $50 on those cards, you could just pick up Haunted Crossroads for less than $1. This is an enchantment for 2 and a black.
Oh, yeah.
You can pay a black to put target creature card from your graveyard on top of your library. Basically, it's Vaevictis attacks, you pay a black, and you reanimate something from your graveyard. Mortuary Mire is similar. It's a land, it comes into play tapped. It taps to add black, but when it comes into play, you can put a creature card from your graveyard on top of your library.
You got Volrath Stronghold.
Yeah, if you feel like being a little bit more spendy, there's Volrath Stronghold for the same effect, but it's repeatable. And then I also have Sylvan Library, which is a little bit spendy now, but it's, at the beginning of your turn, you get to manipulate the top 3 cards of your deck.
Yeah, I wrote about those in... Oh, yeah, I've written a couple articles on EDH Rec about Vaevictis, and I've mentioned those top deck manipulators. I don't really want to spend $100 on 3 cards. There was another card, Scroll Rack, Sensei's Divining Top, and... Oh, what was the other one? Might have been Sylvan Library.
Mirari's Guile?
Or Miri's Guile. Yeah, that one too. So, yeah, those would all be pretty good in a Vaevictis deck, but I don't want to spend that money on those cards. And I'm kind of bored with them.
Yeah.
Those specific cards by now.
So if you don't want to spend $1 million, just get a Mortuary Mire and a Haunted Crossroads for $2 or less.
Yeah.
There's one thing I wanted to throw out that I'm running that's a little bit unique, and I can also pull a little bit from my Grand Warlord Rada deck to talk about here. I am running in this deck a card called Heartless Summoning. This is a...
Oh, I saw that.
Yeah.
That was like shifting gears.
I'm sorry?
It's like shifting gears to cast your commander.
Yeah. So, what is shifting gears?
Well, it's like you're in low gear, because it reduces the cost of casting your commander.
Yeah.
And then once your commander's out, then you sacrifice this thing, because it's also reducing the power and toughness.
Yes. Yeah, you could do that. Heartless Summoning is an enchantment for 1 and a black. It says all creature spells you cast cost 2 less to cast. Creatures you control get -1/-1. In my deck, there are only like two or three, I think 2 creatures out of all 42 of my creatures that have a that have a toughness of 1. So this will kill my Stoneshaker Shaman and I think Jiraga Tree Speaker if it's not leveled up. Apart from that, everything else will survive the summoning.
Well, your Death Touch Snakes won't.
And my Death Touch Snakes from the Ophiomancer will not. Neither will my thing from Awakening Zone or from Kalnai Garden. But the vast majority, so 40 of my creatures will survive Heartless Summoning, and it lets me cast a bunch of really big, high-impact spells for way less. Like, I can cast a Butcher of Malakir for 5 instead of 7, or a Combustible Gearhulk for 4 instead of 6, or a Shieldred for 5, or, I don't know, Keldon Firebombers for 3.
Stop.
It's pretty good, especially when I'm mostly just doing this for an Enter the Battlefield trigger. I could cast Plaguecrafter for black, for a single black. So, yes, I could sack it to Vaevictis, but I think that the value that it generates is just gold. There are a few other cards like this that could fit in the deck, but I'm not running them. You could run Goreclaw, which makes all your big creatures cost 2 less. You could run Krosan Drover, which also makes your big creatures cost 2 less. And you could also run a weird card. Oh man, I gotta look this up. I run this in the deck, but I can't remember quite what it is. Type.
Oh, and we were talking about Drum Hunter. I thought it was Krosan Drover we were talking about.
No, but I would consider Crows and Drover for the deck. So the weird card that I'm thinking of is Centaur Omen Reader at a future sight. As long as Centaur Omen Reader is tapped, creature spells you play cost 2 less to play. These 4 spells, they all cost 4 mana, so they're more expensive than Heartless Summoning, but they make all of your creature spells cost 2 less to cast. I also wanted to mention that if you or your playgroup are uncomfortable with land destruction or don't really care for it as a mechanic, an earlier version of my deck went for more Punisher effects. Nate actually has one of my cards here in the show notes. I think, did you get this from me, Nate? The Invader Parasite?
Yeah, I thought that was cute.
Yeah, so there's a card here called Invader Parasite. It's a 3/2 insect for 3 red. It's a little bit expensive, but if you're flipping it off of Vaevictis, who cares? When it comes into play, exile target land, so it is removal, but just 1 player. And whenever a land of the same name as the exiled card enters the battlefield under an opponent's control, Invader Parasite deals 2 damage to that player. So an earlier version of the deck had a theme not only of destroying lands, but also of punishing lands. So I was running things like Zozu the Punisher and Ankh of Mishra. Things that say whenever a land comes into play, its controller takes damage. Or Mana Barbs, whenever a land is tapped, its controller takes a damage. So that's a theme that you could swap out for the land destruction if you're not feeling the actual land destruction.
Is land destruction too mean for you? Then we got the package for you.
Yes, just punish the lands. Don't destroy them. Punish them.
Just give them a spanking.
You want 30 lands? Here's 30 lands, but you have to tap them and take damage.
Yeah, Patrick, I'm sorry I blew up your lands in Vegas.
No, you're not.
Don't lie, Nate.
I'm a little sorry. I feel regret.
Well, I mean, it's really my fault for tapping the black mana anyway. But, yeah, I mean...
It's all right now. Oh, I will also make a point of calling Nate out that I am not as mean as Nate in that I am not running It That Betrays or Grave Betrayal. So in Nate's Vaevictis deck, when you sacrifice a thing, Nate gets it and keeps it forever.
Oh, I got Mazarek too. Does that count?
Mazarek might count. A little bit. I mean, Mazarek makes your stuff bigger. It doesn't steal the stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, any hidden gems that you have in your deck that you don't think are standard that you might want to throw out there, Nate?
Let me look. Let's see. Baneful Omen. I've been looking for a deck to play this card because I just thought this card was awesome, but the casting cost is prohibitive. It's 4 black enchantment. At the beginning of your end step, you may reveal the top card of your library, and if you do, each opponent loses life equal to that card's converted mana cost. I think this is the deck for that card.
Hey,
that or Yennet Cryptic Sovereign could use it.
Hey,
too.
I ran that in my Demon Tribal deck, and it would have won me a game if I remembered the triggers at the end step.
Did you have quite as much top deck manipulation as this deck, though, Patrick?
I had none, and I had a very hard time casting anything in that deck. But that's not the point. The point
of course
is...
not. That's not the point. Why would that be the point? Yeah, no, this is great, especially when you're flipping, whatever, your Shieldred, your Omnath Locus of Rage, whatever, back on top with your Haunted Crossroads, your Mortuary Mire, whatever it is that's recurring that kind of stuff back to the top of the deck.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I have both the Hanweir Battlements and the Hanweir Garrison just to maybe someday meld them together. Maybe that'll happen someday. Dragon Tempest is it seems straightforward, but you don't have it. So what's up with that?
Dragon Tempest. What is that? Is that the one that gives dragons haste and they deal damage when they come into play?
It gives all your flying creatures haste.
Uh-huh.
It's only 2 mana.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Vaevictis would deal a point of damage when it came into play? Or more
sure.
if I had an extra dragon, I guess.
I don't really care about that. I just want them to have haste.
Sure. Yeah. Something to consider, I guess. Yeah, I think I think you went a little bit deeper on haste than I did. You also have Ogre Battle Driver, and I'm not running that. And I'm not...
No, I have Ogre Slumlord for the Death Touch Rats. I don't have Ogre Battle Driver.
Oh, my bad. Ogre Battle Driver says that whenever a creature comes into play, it gets +2/+0 and gains haste until end of turn. I misread that. Your Ogre
I think you're running the wrong Liliana.
Okay. We're going to take a brief aside to tell Patrick why I am running the correct Liliana. So,
which Liliana is
I
it?
am running a Liliana Vess, 3 black, for a 5 loyalty planeswalker. Her +1 says target player discards a card. That's fine. That's cool.
That's why Dean's
Yeah, because I love to make people discard cards.
I mean, you do.
I do. No, the reason I'm running this Liliana, Patrick, is because her -2 is a Vampiric Tutor.
It puts it on top. Of course.
Search your library for a card, then
dumb.
shuffle your library and put that card on top, and then attack with Vaevictis and flip over a Shieldred.
Or a Price of Glory.
Yeah, but that's...
Or a Sakura Tribe Elder.
Or a Vorinclex Voice of Hunger. There we go. We got there.
Yeah. There's so many good cards that could go into a Vaevictis deck. I think I like my enchantments too much to run Bane of Progress, but if you're going to go full Rurik Thar on it, then you can run Rurik Thar and Bane of Progress.
Oh, yeah, I forgot.
That would probably be cool
do
too.
actually. I need to run that in this deck because the 2 games that this lost really badly were to a Tuvasa deck. Tuvasa just wiped the floor. I couldn't keep up.
Yeah, so Bane of Progress will destroy all the artifacts and enchantments on the board. If you're up against Planeswalkers, then you might consider Thief of Blood, which will take all the counters off of everything.
And turn it into
soak 'em up.
+1/+1 counters, right, on itself?
Yeah, both Bane of Progress and Thief of Blood get +1/+1 counters for everything they get rid of.
And if you come up against a lot of flying creatures, you could run Whiptongue Hydra for 5 and a green. And when it comes into play,
But my commander
blows
is a
up
flying creature.
well, you're running haste. You're running a lot of haste and ramp, so...
Yeah.
And probably some reanimate, too. Are you running much reanimate, Nate? You've got Sepulchral
I don't think I
Primordial.
am.
That's steely reanimation. Yeah, you're not.
Yeah, I just have the Mending of Dominaria to shuffle it all back in.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I love reanimation too much. I am also a necromancer myself. Thank you very much, Joey Schultz. So yeah, I've got a couple of reanimation and pseudo reanimation packages. You already heard me talk about Shieldred, and then the Haunted Mire or the Haunted Crossroads and the Mortuary Mire act as reanimation spells. It's pretty delicious.
Yeah, they do. Does that wrap it up?
Yeah, that wraps it up for me.
Okie doke.
I helped.
You did.
Yay.
I'm stopping now. Is anybody going to say something funny before I stop? Nope. Okay.
Poop, poop, poop.
Visit us at patreon.com/commandertime.
You can find me on Twitter at Grubfellow.
At Detective Yarmits.
At Mr. Plorg.
Just give them a spanking.